Okay, what we're doing today is some buggy maintenance. We're going to rebuild the ball diff on a Losi 22 5.0. But you can use these basic steps for any ball diff. I have all my parts cleaned and ready to go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the screw that holds the ball diff together. Then we're going to grab one of the small washers that hold the thrust balls, and we're going to slide it on. Next, we're going to grab some of the high pressure grease that comes in the rebuild kit. And the rebuild kit for the Losi is camera doesn't want to focus, but the rebuild kit is TLR 232001. We're going to take a little bit of the black grease and we're going to apply it to the washer to hold the thrust balls in place. Next, I'm going to grab a set of tweezers and put the thrust balls into the grease. The grease really helps hold them. We have all the balls on. Next, we're going to add a little bit more of the black grease. Smear it on there a little bit. And then take the other small washer and slide it over. And then I just like to take that little bit of grease that's pushing out and cover the bearings, or the thrust balls, sorry. Then wipe that off. Take this, take the screw with the thrust balls, and you're going to want to insert that like that. And then I like to take the cap that holds it all together and slide it in like so. So that way, even if I hold it like that, it won't fall out when I'm putting it together. Wipe my fingerprints off of there. Get my oil from my skin off. And I'm using lint-free towels. I'm going to go ahead and set that over here. Next, we're going to have to put the bearing or the balls into the diff gear. And for that, we are going to need the clear grease. The high pressure clear grease, or the silicone diff grease, sorry. And for that, just like take a little bit, put it around in there, like so. And then I can start putting the balls in. Just take the tweezers. I found this is the easiest way for me. There's plenty of other ways to do it. Just take that, push it in place, and you're going to repeat that until it's all full. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole process, but I'll do a couple of them, and then when I come back, it'll be all done. Okay, now we have all the balls inside the gear for the differential. I'm going to take a little bit more of the clear grease. And we're going to put a little bit over here. You don't have to use a ton either. Just a little bit goes a long way, because it's just going to push out when you put the diff all together. And see, this is why we add the grease, because I just had one pop out on me. So we're just going to go through and make sure they're all pushed in real good. Just roll your finger around them. That's all you got to do. Add a little bit of grease to this side. Just take it and I just roll my finger around. So I get a nice even amount around there. Do the same on both sides. You want both sides to be the same. And like I said, you don't need a lot of grease. It goes a long way. So then you can take this, the gear, and you can set it off to the side. I'll put it right there. Then you take some of this silicone grease, and you add it where the diff ring is going to go. Just put a little bit on there, wipe it around. You want all this to be nice and clean and greased really well. Doesn't need a ton, but you don't want dry spots. So you put a little bit on the cup, and you grab your diff rings, and you take them, and these are already cleaned. I already cleaned off all the grease that came on them from the packaging. I add a little bit of grease to that. You just smear it around there. Get it coated. Doesn't have to be a lot, but you don't want it to be dry. Then you take that. I'll do the other side. Okay, so after you get it all lubed up, you just go ahead and you stick them together, and you kind of push it and then roll it in place. It should sit on the little lip that's in there. So then I just go ahead, set that over there, and then on this one, on this side, you got to put the bearing in. Bearing sits in there like that. And I always take a little bit of bearing oil. Bearings are all cleaned, ready to go. And I add a little bit of oil to them before I put it all back together. So I always slide the bearing on like that, and then I put my diff gear on like that. Just make sure all the balls stay in. That's all I'm doing. Then I set that off to the side. And I wet my fingers because they're slippery. And I take some more. And I do the other side. I do this side exactly the same way I did that side. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to finish putting the diff together. Now that we've got both sides put together, you need to take your spring, your new spring. I don't ever like to reuse the old spring. Here is my old one. And if you look at the new one to the old one, they're different sizes. This spring has been compressed, and I don't like to reuse them. So throw that to the side, and I always take and just give it one little squeeze. Slide the spring in, and then you slide your nut in and slide it all the way down, and then you take your other side of your diff and you slide the two sides together. I always like to give them a little turn. Then you take your 2mm driver and you can put it in there. start turning it until you feel resistance. Once you feel resistance, I like to give it about another quarter turn. And then I rotate it a little bit. Work that grease in a little bit. Get all that excess out. And you'll see the excess coming out all around on both sides. And then take the driver, turn it a little bit more, work it in, and do that a couple times. And then I take this tool here. I'm sure there's other companies that make them, but this is made by Factory Tracks Racing. You can probably pick one up online. Not sure where. I got one from one of the drivers, the team drivers. Take this. In the middle of this tool helps you set your ball diff tension before you put it in the car. I like to set it up to where that's a little too tight to start for me. So I'll back it off just a little bit. And you kind of want to feel, you can use 2 Allens. It's just something to hold the diff cups in place. And you want to get it to where it just starts to roll the gear, and then I like to add about a quarter turn after. See, I can spin the gear. I don't like that, so about a quarter turn. And that's about what I like to put it in the car and then start breaking it in. I don't like to bottom it out like the manual says, or like other people say. This is just how I've done it for years, and I've get pretty good diff life. And I'm only running 17.5 stock buggy. Now I'll just clean off the excess grease on the outside, on both sides, and then it's ready to go in the buggy. So next I'll take the buggy apart and we'll put the diff in, and then we'll rebuild, or we'll break it in. So next time you see this diff, it will be in the buggy and we will be breaking it in. Alright, now we're going to start breaking in the ball diff. I'm going to take my 1.5 mil driver and I am going to insert it into the drive cup of the diff where the axle goes in, just to lock it in place. Now I'm going to plug the battery in, and we are going to start breaking the diff in. And we're going to do each side of the diff for about 4 minutes. So you go ahead, turn the buggy on, Unplug the fan for this. And just turn your trim on your throttle up till it starts moving. Doesn't need to be going super fast. And you do that for about 4 minutes. And then you check your tension of your diff. And we'll go from there. I'll come back after running this for 4 minutes and show you how to tension it. Okay, so it's ran for its 4 minutes. You can kind of feel the diff is a little looser than it was when you started. And I do have this on the workbench for a reason instead of on a car stand. I don't like running the axles when they're in full droop. So I always run it with the car sitting on the workbench with no tires. So I'm going to pop this ball cup off and adjust the diff. And yes, I know they make a special tool, but I'm not buying it. I've been running low-C since the first 22 short course truck. So I don't really see a point in buying it personally. Yes, it's a little easier sometimes, but I've used it a few times and it seems like I fight with it more than it's worth. So I just turn the screw in about another half a turn. And when you put your diff in the buggy on the low C's, you want the screw pointed out to the left side of the buggy. Set my ball cup back in. Check, feel how my diff feels. Feels pretty good. Probably give it a little bit more to break in. Give her another little turn. And most of this is by feel. So the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Yeah, it feels good. And it feels a little different with tires on it. So I'm going to do that break-in again for another 4 minutes. And then we'll be back. Okay, so I just got done running it the other side in on the diff. Now I'm going to do that one more time on each side for 4 minutes each. So 4 more minutes on the right and 4 more minutes on the left. And then after that, your diff should be pretty broken in. So I'm going to do that 2 more times, 1 on each side. And I'll come back and I'll show you how to set your diff before your first run. Okay, now I have the diff completely broken in. And now I want to set the tension on it before I take it out there for the first drive. So I'm going to hold one of the back wheels and I'm going to spin the other one, just give it a flick. And you want to watch how much your tire rotates. Now I usually just use, on the low C's it says TLR, so I usually just watch that, and I wanted to get about anywhere from 3/4 to a half a spin. Let's see if I can find something to mark this rim with, so you can have let me grab a marker, I'll be right back. Okay, so I filled in letters on the rim so you can see when I spin it how much it rotates. Get about half a turn out of it every time I flick it over. So I'm going to leave it there for my first 5-minute run, because it's going to loosen up a little bit. So I'm going to run it for 5 minutes when I go to the track next, and then I'm going to check the tension, and I'm going to keep it at that about half a spin every time. And then always back off your slipper and reset your slipper before running it at the track after rebuilding your diff. At least that's what I like to do. And that's how you rebuild a ball diff. Now, this is my first YouTube video. Any comments would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching my video, and have a great day.